Just kind of aimlessly working on whatever. I have no goal in mind. Just kind of thinking, I haven't included a way for my game to retrieve what the player is wearing or what they have equipped. So I was just kind of pondering on some ways I'd like to do this. So there's a number of methods that I could use. I could store each individual item or each area of equipment in a table cell, or I can create a variable to hold a collection. So I've just got a little notepad text file open just to kind of brainstorm. So there's a couple ways I could do this by creating a equipment variable. I'm just going to pretend that's the name. That's not what it is because I haven't made it yet, but let's just pretend that's what it is. And inside that variable I could store a collection of this would be a collection that I'm creating using semicolons to split the elements, you know, as I've gone over in several videos. So it would basically be like, it would store the thruster equipment ID, the turning equipment ID, I think the shield module, hole plating, something like that. And I think that might be how I'm going to do it, because that's the simplest method. Or I could use a table, which I might use a table just because I can have specific access to specific cells in the table, and I can overwrite things easier than if I were to, technically, if I use a variable like this, I can just overwrite it with a new collection. But if I use a table instead, it will be, you know, divided into cells that look like, it looks like an Excel spreadsheet, basically. So you end up with this grid. And in each of the grid spaces, I would have another equipment ID variable or value stored in each cell. And then I could actually edit each cell individually and change the value in there. I might use a table just because I can store the equipment for the player's ship and equipment for the rover all in one table. I haven't really done a lot with tables in this project yet. I've got tables for saving data, and so I'll actually call this one save equipment, or, you know, save data equipment. And this one right now, I know I want it to be 2, 1, and I actually currently only think I need it to be 4 at the moment. It might be more than that, but basically I've only got these 4 areas of equipment: the thruster, the turning thrusters, the shield, and the hole. And then there's weapons, and weapons are things like beam, bullet. I think there's a like kinetic or something like that. I've got to go through and narrow down all the different weapon types, but those I can just add later. So I've got my basic 4 equipment areas. So I just want to clear out all these. Those will be empty. And at the beginning of the game, this little table here is essentially going to be empty. I actually can fill it at any point. I can fill it when the game starts. I can fill it up with information every time you save the game. It's likely I'll probably just add this to my current save script. So over here, when you save the game, it runs a whole bunch of little loops, stores where ships are, stores map information. That's done here in another custom event that I think I've got another video covering most of what I did with this. And this is just how to loop through a table. and retrieve information. This will actually be a little bit simpler. What I'm going to first do, I want to just create a little subscript here just to keep it separate and have a clear workspace here. Scooch that up. So whenever the player saves the game, I would like it to manually fill that table with information. So the first thing I want it to do is clear out the table, save data equipment, comment, initialize the equipment table. I'm just going to rename this equipment. It's actually going to happen somewhere up here, not at the very end. But all I need this to do is edit an element of a table, and it's going to edit specific positions. And since I know exactly how big the table is, let me actually just create visually a little example here. I know it's 4 wide by 2 tall, and it's only got 1 Z layer, so it's 2. Actually, I don't. That's not even relevant here. But since I'm going to be storing the player's information here, let me just add some coordinate values in here. And space that down. So all of this is going to be on Z1 period. So when I want to edit the first cell here, I can just leave everything as it is. When I want to edit the second cell, I'll just change the X value to 2. And when I want to edit the third, I just change that to 3, etc., etc. And then for the second row, I would just change the Y value to 2 and just repeat the same process and fill each cell here. So the first cell is X1, Y1, and that's going to be the save data equipment. And let's add a comment here. Store the equipped thruster. And what this is, I'm going to need is the equipment that is currently equipped to the ship. I want it to specifically be the ship because it doesn't. I know right now I've got it set up so that main, whenever you're playing as the rover, this main gets passed to the rover, but you shouldn't be able to save on the surface. So I do specifically want to refer to the ship and what thruster it's using, because the rover uses engines and that's a different area of equipment. So I want it to be the ship's thruster, and that's going to store in the first cell. And I just kind of want to repeat this. 2 is going to store the ship's turning thrusters. So I could just manually go in and change each of these, you know, to hull plating, etc. I want it to store the turning thrusters, not of the main. I want it to store the currently equipped ship's turning thrusters in the second cell. And that will be stored here. So basically this would become the thruster, the ID for the thruster item. This would become the ID for the turning thruster. And I just have to repeat that a couple more times for each area of equipment that I want to store. I want to store the shield. Well, I guess, yeah, I want to keep track of everything. I'll just do it alphabetically, how it's arranged. So this would be hull, and the last one would be shield. Make sure everything's commented out so I know what each of these is doing. I add the comments for myself since I don't really have too many plans to distribute the source code for this game, but I would like to release some scripts and some examples from it at some point. I just haven't had a chance to sit down and group things up into releasable state, but hopefully I will. I want the last one to be the shield module. That'll be number 4. Oops. Let's actually redo that, paste that, there we go. Ooh. Okay, so I've got these 4 areas of equipment for the ship. Now I've got 4 for the rover, but they don't actually have anything yet. So the rover just has an engine. And that would just be the engine area of equipment, and that will be stored in the first one. I want this to say rovers equipped engine. For now, I don't need those. Oops. One extra space there. Adding ships in here so it's a little bit clearer for me to see while I'm just scanning through. Then it will do the same thing here. The rover, however, is on Y2, so I want it to store in the second row here. And for now, since each of them is using the same type of weapon, at the moment, just temporarily, I'm going to add a 5th column here, and this 5th column will just be the weapon that they're currently using, just so I can reload it. Oop. Go away. Come back in here, come back in there. Make a copy of that. Ships, equipped weapon, and do the same thing here. I want to check the ship's current equipped beam weapon, and I want that to be stored in X5Y1, which will be the first row, but the very last cell that I just added. I'll copy paste that, change that to a 2, so I can store the rovers, just so I make sure all the scripting IDs and everything get passed through here correctly. Rover, beam, I should have remembered that myself, but so technically when this runs, I should get the first row of my table here will be filled up for the ship, and this one will only have an engine and a beam weapon at the very end. These 3 cells will be empty. I just want it to store the equipment that the player is using, or that the rover is using. And I kind of want to move this. Let's put it right here after it saves maps. I guess it doesn't really matter where it goes, it's going to run regardless. It doesn't change anything. And so by doing this, adding that to my save game system, it doesn't do anything yet. It doesn't actually have an effect until I create a new save game. And the problem with the old save games is they will all be broken. Technically, they will all fire an error because when they were saved, they won't fire an error yet, but after what I'm planning to do, they will fire errors because that table doesn't exist yet, or it doesn't exist in any of the save games. So loading up, there's not going to be anything in this table, but if I were to make a new save game, let's overwrite this one, Testing equipment saving. Yes. Okay. So now everything's saved. I've got a table full of things here. I guess it doesn't have a shield module equipped, so if there's nothing to save, it won't save anything. I forgot that when you clear the table, it fills it with zeros like that, which technically is not what I want it to do. And to make it fill with empty values, I would like to do the same thing for those those 3 empty cells. So since the rover doesn't have turning thrusters, it's just going to save that as a blank value. Copy paste that. That'll be number 3 for cell 3 on row 2. I'll store the rover's hull plating. Now the rover will have some kind of hull plating value to save, or equipment to save. And it should also have a shield. I might be making separate areas of equipment for rovers and ships, but I don't know yet. And that'll give me 4 empty values. And scooch you guys in here. So I don't want those values to be zeros. I want them to be null, which is nothing. Nothing at all. So if there's zeros, when I try to reload, it'll actually try to reload something based on the number 0. And there is nothing with scripting ID 0. So it would just fire errors. So let's load this up. I'm going to have this broken table here with the zeros in it. The first thing I want to do is overwrite that with itself. And now I'll have blank values wherever there's no equipment. So the rover's got the rover beam on, it's got an engine, got this basic thruster, some poorly named modules, and a beam. So that's working as it should. I also want to store health and shield values in the same table. So this is all going to be something that I make adjustments to. So there's 2 things that I might have to do. I might want to change the first cell to the health value for each, and the second cell to shield values. And it's something I'm going to have to figure out as I'm going along. I haven't actually implemented a shield system yet, but for now, I'm going to come in here, and in the loaded trigger, there's a loaded trigger that's part of the parent. I might make a separate loaded trigger that isn't, because it's specific to the player when it's loading. I don't want any of this stuff happening, or I don't want what I'm about to add to happen to every ship, because only the player's ship should be loading new equipment when the game is being reloaded. So I'm going to add its own little loaded trigger in here, and this I'm going to put in the base actor, I believe. I could put it in the default actor, but I want to put it in the base actor. And let's forget where it is. Add a new loaded trigger. And this is where I'm going to grab the change or equip item. Equip item is what it's called. So I want to change this actor, which is going to refer to the player actor. I don't need to refer to it specifically by scripting ID, because I can just use this right here. And for the area of equipment, I want to pick thruster. Reload the ship's thruster. And I don't want it to add it. If it does, the thing that this is for is adding items to the player inventory if they don't already have it. So I keep it set to no, since it's just going to equip this item to the player. If they have more than one in their inventory, it'll add another one of these to their inventory, and that's not what I want. So I want it to actually add the equipment value that's stored in the table. So I want to pick save data equipment as the value here, or as the table here. And since I know it's going to be the first column, or x1, of the first row on the first Z layer, I just have to set it to 111. Then I'm going to copy that and just change that to a 2 for turning thrusters. Copy that. Actually change that. It's going to make me do that. Element in table will be 211. Hole plating will be 311. I always forget to change my comment. And shield module will be 411. Oop. Now copy paste that. Very last one will be the beam weapon, which is currently temporarily stored in 511. I haven't done much with weapons yet, which is something that I'll get to in another video, but that's how I'd reload all of those equipment values from the table. So all of my other saves will be broken. When I reload one of the older saves, it won't have that table, so it will actually just fire an error. But my newest save should. So at the very beginning, that's going to fire an error because that's not where I want it to go. I don't want it to be in the player's loaded trigger. Let's get rid of that. I just have to change a couple little things. I want this to be in the loaded game. Let's just use this as a attach point for a subscript. And I can paste all this. And I just got to change the actor so that it's directly equipping things to the ship. That way this only happens when the game is loaded, rather than every time you start a new game and the ship has a loaded trigger in it. That actually fires whenever the actor is loaded onto a map. It doesn't matter if the game's been loaded or not. So I'm going to call this load equipment. So this will load up the player's equipment. can just stick this in here somewhere. Okay, so now the ship won't fire an error whenever I run the game. Okay, loading this might break things because there's no values saved yet. So I've got this ugly thing here. It's actually trying to load an empty value, so let me go back in here. Oops. This will require some conditions. I want to check to see if anything is in there. So this will check each cell. I'm going to go through each of these just to see if there is a piece of equipment that's been saved, because if that value is empty, it's going to try and load an empty item into the equipment slot, which is not what I want. I just have to check to see if a value has even been stored there before it tries to load each piece. Which is kind of annoying, but looks a little silly. Has a hull plating been stored? That'll be number 3. And I want it to continue on after each of these. Check number 4, or column 4 for shield module. Let's put this over here, yeah. And then the weapon. Column number 5. Bloop, bloop. If not, just skip it. Probably be very rare that the player is not equipped with all of the items that are supposed to be equipped to the ship. I'm just currently at a point where I don't have all the items made. I don't have proper hull plating and all that. So we're going to load this save again. And it's not going to error out because it's checking to see if there's something stored in each of these slots. So if I rewrite that save, I get all the same values here, but that's technically new values. It's updated. And my ship will always be re-equipped with whatever it was last equipped with. But adding these in there, I wonder if it's unequipping those from the rover as the rover is removed from the party. Because that's all the stuff that the rover has equipped. But what I can also add we'll just add some steps for the rover. Change that second one to 2 because the rover's info is on row 2. Everything for the rover is stored on the second row, so it's just the same columns but row number 2. Change this. Has an engine been stored? Reload the rover's thruster. We'll set that to rover here. technically going to be rover's engine. And I want it to load the information from X1, Y2. Don't add the item because it should already be in the player's inventory at this point. I'm not sure why, but we'll copy paste this. Since the rover doesn't have anything else to load yet, except for its weapon, I'll change that to 5. Has a rover weapon been stored? And change that to beam. Change that 1 to a 5. And so I haven't messed with the party system too much. I'm assuming removing the rover from the party seems to have unequipped its equipment. If I start a new game, this will be empty. And let's save on this second slot here. Call it rover equipment test. So we got a new save game. Over here it's going to store all this here. And I've got my rover equipment in place. Now, these guys are probably going to kill me while I'm sitting here if I don't kill them first. If they bump into each other, they'll start going after each other instead of me, which is kind of what I want right now. I want to dock with this planet.
Entering planetary orbit.
Turbo. Okay, now see, the rover's equipped with its stuff, but I've still got these items in my inventory. So that's not the issue. I don't know why I'm getting 2 extra bits of equipment. That might be some issue that I've had sitting around for a while and I just haven't caught it. Who knows? Because it's loading up that I have extras. To check what the player is currently equipped with, you can just go to the objects in the debugger and click on the object that you want to check, and it's wearing all the stuff that I told it to save. Didn't have a shield module, so it's not going to have anything there in that slot. So that's just in case, for any reason, that information gets lost in the save process. I always want to be able to reload whatever the equipment was. So the rover here, it's already equipped with these 2 things. I'm not sure why they're showing up in my inventory. So if I go to a new game, they're already in my inventory, and I don't need them. They all go bump into each other. They will bump into each other if I fly past them. Oh, no, they didn't. Get away! Come on. Their health bars aren't currently working at the moment either, since I've changed what they're looking like. Okay.
Scanning. New entering planetary orbit.
Now, just to double check everything, I want to see that the rover's got all of its equipment on. For some reason I have these duplicates in my inventory. I'm really not sure why. Because the rover is a template. That has equipment on it already. that's why. Now. Okay, that'll fix it. Alright, now when I start a new game, I shouldn't have extra pieces in my inventory, and I should still be able to just land on the planet.
Entering planetary orbit.
Rude.
Scanning. New discovery. Entering planetary orbit.
And that's going to reload with the equipment in my inventory, because this is a save from before I fixed that. So, create a new game. Let's blow up these guys.
Scanning. New discovery.
Okay, first thing, I want to make a new save game. And that saves all the equipment again.
Entering planetary.
I don't have anything weird in my inventory. My rover's got all of its stuff on.
Entering planetary orbit.
Okay, because as the player goes, they're going to change the equipment that the ship and the rover are using. And updating that every time they save will make it so I can reload everything correctly. If I didn't add this in whenever the player reloads the game, it would just reload the defaults, the gear that's currently equipped to the default actor. And I want it to update with any equipment that has been changed by the player. So I'll add that in there, leave that there. Currently it's reloading the rover stuff as well. I'll put this over here just because it's part of the ship's reload script. I'll put this over here because that's the rover's. The rover will have more gear to reload later. Get rid of that. Give it one last little go here. The other value, I think I haven't stored the health and shield value, but I can add the health value pretty quickly at least. Let's reload from here. And you see that my health bars are back up to full again. So that's not correct. So I've got this table here. Say thruster. You know, I'll just do a code here. Thruster X2 turning, X3 hull, X4 shield, X5 weapon. So what I can do as an example, I can use a variable as well. I do this sometimes. The player health store. I'll just call it player health store for now. I'll just say that it's this little value. And I can store those as a collection, but what I want it to do is store the current HP, or I'll just call it now HP, and the max HP for the player and for the rover. So it would be ship HP, ship max HP. This is just to show an example of how I do this with another I like doing this. Storing collections inside variables is really convenient for me. So rover now. Right now I don't have the rover's health and stuff set up quite yet, so I only really need to store the ships. So I've got this new value, new variable here. It's blank. And I come back into my save game system here. And I'll just jump into this equipment variable, or equipment subscript. What I want it to do is, currently, I just want it to store a value in my newly created variable, player health store. And I want it to do two things: health and maximum health. So there's HP and then there's max HP. And the way I want to do that is combine those two with a little dash in between them. So that's going to give me a number value. So it'll give me two numbers: the player's current HP, which could be 14 or 13. It's going to put a little dash, and then it's going to store the max health value. So that will, I'll always be able to store those two values and retrieve them. That's for my convenience. There might be some built-in thing that I don't know, but I want to store them manually myself. So it'll store the current value and the max HP value. And then later on, when I fix up the rover stuff, it's going to be combined with a semicolon to add the rover. I'll just be like that, rover HP. And that way I can check both values from the same variable. Right now I'll just add that. Store the player's HP. And then when I come back in here, I can do the same thing. It'll get more complicated when I need to store enemies and NPC health values and all that. And I'll probably move the player ship and all that over into a table, but I'll get there eventually. This is just how I'm going to do it for now. So right here where I've got the loading equipment, I want to add it underneath that. So I'm going to click on this, disconnect that little line here, and change health. I've got two values: change health and change maximum health. So I want to set the ship, the player ship's health, to the nth element in collection, and I want it to be the first. So it's going to be the first element of this little tiny collection here. By splitting my variable here using the dash, it will give me the current HP value. I can copy this because the other value I want, I just have to change that to a 2. So I want to change the health, load the current health, and then we're going to change the maximum health of the ship to that same value. I'll just change that to a 2, so it pulls the second number value here. element 2 in this little collection. And load the max health value. Now, my save will be broken again because that collection does not exist in my save file, so I have to make a new save. And what better way to test it than fighting against a couple of these crappy little AI ships that I've got here? Because they will definitely hit me a few times, and that will take my health down so I can check it. Ooh, he might kill me before I get it. There we go. Okay, so now when I save the game, we'll go here, call it testing health restore, or testing health load, whatever. So now, when I reload my game, my health bars are exactly where I left them. When I fought those guys, I'll have to do the same thing for the shields, but the shields are, that's going to be an active variable storing the shield value. But I haven't set that up quite yet. There's going to be a combat system where certain weapons are better against shields than hulls, and others are better against the hull than shields. That will come in another video. But that got my health saved, my max health saved, all the equipment that the player's currently using.
Scanning. New discovery. Entering planetary.
Same thing for the rover. All the rover's equipment gets reloaded. And that might be all I'm going to knock out for now. My to-do list is just growing and growing and growing, but I've added fixed a whole bunch more stuff. Added buttons, fixed things that were causing errors, but I've also added some more stuff. So currently, this was on the list. I've got it saving the health, stats for the most part, shields, etc., equipment, but it's not quite done because I still have to save shield values and all that. So I'm putting this slash here. The rover's equipment is currently fixed whenever reloading the game. That got knocked out when I finished that little save and load system. And there's a couple issues that I have left to fix with the save system and naming things, but I'll get to that another time. That's probably all I'm going to cover in this video. If you haven't gone to screamingbrainstudios.com yet, you should go get some free stuff. I have hundreds and hundreds, actually I've got thousands and thousands at this point, thousands of free public domain game assets you can use to prototype, to design your games, to edit, to do whatever you want with. They're all public domain, they're all totally free. You can support me for $1 on Patreon, and you'll get a bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff. There's a whole, I think something like 1,000 additional free assets that are just for my patrons from my archives. And if you want to learn how to use those or how to make them, I've got a whole bunch of old-school graphic tutorials and tools that you can download, add to your arsenal for making video game graphics. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Probably do some more interface work, maybe set up a shop or some kind of repair system for the player ship to repair after getting blown up by enemies. I haven't decided. I haven't been able to work on anything in the last week or so, so my brain's still in a weird little fog. But hopefully I'll have some more stuff for you guys this week. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.